People often ask what's more important, who the leader is or what they do in their role. And of course, philosophers would answer that by saying that both are important, that being and doing are mutually reinforcing activities and need to be considered in terms of a leader and her actions. So the personal leadership is founded on character and values is the first element of a model I like to use. Sort of that's the basis for everything else. And a person can have more or less impact based on how much confidence people have in their abilities and the example that they set as a leader. But there are specific things that leaders can do, and it can be helpful to look at those other elements as well. A significant one is how they create community, and I like to really spend time looking at how they create a community that's grounded in mission, because that can be a very fundamental tool that's used in making ethical decisions in an organization. There's also just what I think people typically think of when they think of ethics in organizational life and leadership, which is that encouraging of ethical conduct, the sort of traditional things that we do in organizations to try and promote what we believe is good and right behavior. So that's the codes of conduct and the policies and practices that companies can promote. And yet, even when they do all those things, it still can be very challenging. So it's also useful for leaders to consider and plan for the kind of situations that will lead people to maybe not make the best and most ethical decision when they're tired or confused, or when they're taking a decision that's previously been considered an ethical decision, how a company handles a certain regulatory requirement, and then it can get converted in time into a business decision because they affix monetary value to it. Oh, well, we only have to pay a fine if we break this rule about getting rid of our toxic waste, or whatever the corollary is. And so that's sort of ethical fading. That's that ability to shift things from decisions that were originally set up to be ethical decisions and allow them to be thought of as just business decisions. Then there's people that are really, I think, effective as leaders in an ethical practice are relentless about playing their position. They're really disciplined in their role. They're always thinking about what their primary obligations are and which interests they're charged with representing in the role that they have at that time. Then, of course, things will go wrong, and so leaders have an opportunity when that happens to sort of set the record straight, if you will. And I think about that as clarifying culture, sort of helping people to see what the organization's values are and sort of ascertain, do my personal values fit with this organization? When those things are in alignment, you're more likely to get better decision making for the organization. And then the last element is ethical design of systems, sort of being mindful of the fact that people are individuals and humans, and looking at the way that you're compensating them and rewarding them and what behavior you're promoting them to do. Her Sheffrin here at the business school at Santa Clara talks about behavioral risk management, and risk management is increasingly a part of leadership. And you have to look at it, according to Hirsch, it's the blend of the individual perspectives, but also the shared values in an organization that create how risk will get considered and reacted to in organizations. So being able to look at that sort of bigger picture for the individual and for the organization, and then real masters in this area can devote some time to the broader ecosystem that their organization might operate in, the industry or the country and the political environment that they're operating in. And increasingly we're seeing some of that more what's referred to as CEO activism in American business, as some leaders find that they have the capacity to move out of just their role as a leader for their organization, but also consider the bigger picture.